The traditional Latin Mass has been around for a very long time, but after Vatican II, it slowly started to fade away from the church. Now, people are wanting the Latin Mass back. So I interviewed Father James, the priest at Our Lady of Nazareth, who's been doing the Latin Mass for our community.
Latin Mass, this is essentially our worship as Catholics, that it is our patrimony, it goes back to apostolic times, really cemented more in the liturgical reforms of Pope Damasus and especially Pope Gregory the Great, who really canonized everything, and over that time went through organic development and was the norm for the church up until 1969. I remember my grandfather talking about it, and really my grandparents in general talking about how Mass used to be, and it always raised a curiosity of, wait, if this is supposed to be the Mass, why is it so different now as it was back then? The Mass shouldn't have changed that much, and I just kind of kept that in the back of my head, and then when I went to college in the Arlington Diocese, I did see some practices in the Novus Ordo, communion patens, boy servers, so it just kind of made me think oh, you can do that. But also when I studied music at Shenandoah University, we studied the music for the traditional Latin Mass as part of church history, the chants, the masses written for it. And I had a classmate who said, James, why don't you Catholics play this stuff anymore? And it just made me question, well, why don't we? And so there was kind of this curiosity planted in seminary. When I was in seminary, I would go down to St. Alphonsus Liguori. It's now run by the Fraternity of St. Peter, but it was a diocesan parish in Baltimore. I went to the Latin Mass once a month or so. Loved it, and basically my goal was to do both forms well, but I'm finding that with some of the open-ended questions in the new Mass, I had to go to the old Mass to find out how to do the old Mass, and to have that continuity. While the traditional Latin Mass is difficult to learn, I think in the end it's easier because of how direct it is, and that clarity it gives a humility that I'm not the one crafting the liturgy, but rather I'm one submitting to the liturgy. So it's focused on God versus me. So I'm doing it at Our Lady of Nazareth because I'm assigned there. I was doing it in a couple other places, but I was asked to do it at Our Lady of Nazareth, so I'm respecting my superior's wishes to do that. So generally first Fridays and last Sundays, do a low Mass, then a high Mass. And I'll do some private Masses just for my own personal.
Miss Nodebart, who has regularly been attending these Latin Masses, was unavailable for an interview due to work, but was still able to answer some of my questions. When I asked her how the Latin Mass benefited her, she said, "Not only did I find reverence and a higher connection to God in the Latin Mass, but I also found the peace I have been looking for in the ordinary Mass. I found that although the ordinary Mass has its flaws, Christ is still there and present. I have been able to enjoy the ordinary Mass more and the congregation there more fully." I was also able to interview Miss Templeton, one of the 4th grade teachers, who has also been attending the Latin Masses.
My husband and I started going to the Latin Masses simply to get a more reverent feel of a Catholic Mass. Both of us were new to the Catholic faith here in the last couple of years, and we just wanted to experience a more reverent type of Mass. We try to go once a month when they're offered here in the Valley. I know they're offered maybe 2 to 3 times a month, but we try to go at least once a month. I think the Latin Mass has benefited me in a way that I am able to be more involved in my faith. I feel like it's definitely a more reverent experience, and that's helped me kind of develop a more reverent feel just in my life and my daily life and living with my husband and my children, and just living a
I
Catholic
encourage
faith.
any Catholic who's interested in attending a traditional Latin Mass to come to one and experience it for themselves.